I hope so. I hope so. Yeah, let's see here. Okay. Hi, everybody. We're here at the Vitality Project with a dear returning friend, Eric Rogers. Great to have you, Eric. Thank you for joining us.
Hi,
Yeah, it's
thank you.
great. It's great. Um, I, uh, uh, I was thinking just before we met tonight, you and I have had any number of conversations about what goes into recovery. And I don't know for you, Eric, but when I got into recovery, I thought it was just about stopping drinking, and in my case, stopping drugging. And I didn't realize that it would be a lifestyle change in every domain of my life in terms of addressing, for me, not just addiction to substance, but addiction to a whole host of behaviors that have gotten me into a thicket of trouble, and even attitudes. And that's really where I want to go today. And we can just go wherever we want to for the next 20 minutes or so. I'm very interested. I know you're deeply committed to recovery. You've been open here before, and just want to dialogue with you about it, how you look at your life in recovery in terms of kind of honest self-inventory as regularly and in whatever form you take, my friend.
Yeah, it's I was told very early on, and for those that haven't heard me talk before, allow me to qualify really quick. My addiction started a little bit later in life with pills. I don't even remember my first drink or drunk until I was definitely in my 20s. But I'm also in recovery from an eating disorder. Tracing this back, I can actually look at that. My first drug, believe it or not, was a whole pack of Oreo cookies 2 days after my dad's um, death. But once you put those pills on board after losing my dad and my brother to this disease, to suicide, knowing they numb the feelings, I crossed that line. The cucumber turned into the pickles, so to speak, and crossed that line, and there was never a crossing
Yeah,
back.
yeah,
And I'm stubborn as all hell, and I fought this program for 5 years. And by the absolute grace of God, took my first true year working a program exactly a week ago today on July 1st.
congratulations. Really aware that that's
Thank you.
wonderful. Really happy to have you here and to celebrate that with you, brother. That's great, Eric.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But I was told very, very early on there's three essentials that are absolutely indispensable to this program. Um, and it's willingness, honesty, and openness, and it's all over the book. And
Yeah,
I'm
yeah,
not one here to quote the book or memorize the book. I'm not that kind of guy. But
yeah, yeah.
when I really sat down to read it this time, it's everywhere. And it's funny. The acronym is HOW.
Mhm.
Honesty, openness, and willingness. How do
Mhm.
you do this? And the three indispensables to recovery. You've got to be willing, you've got to be honest, and you've got to have an open mind.
Yeah.
And if you don't have those, it's not going to work. And it's only till a year ago, June 30th, that I was absolutely so beaten down between an eating disorder, and I'm
Mhm.
a drink to die kind of guy. I don't
Yeah.
like to get drunk. I absolutely hate the taste of alcohol.
Yeah.
But if that emotional wave comes over me,
Yeah.
the only other thing I know is substance.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
have a
Yeah.
solution. I'm
Yeah.
not comfortable with me. I can't sit through feelings. I mean, I got
Mhm.
tiff with a girl I'm dating over the weekend. I found myself
Mhm.
getting really snappy, and she
Yeah.
called me out. And for the first time in my life, I was able to walk away and say, what's my part in this? To be
Wow.
honest,
Wow. Right
to
on.
be
Right
open,
on.
to be willing. But
Mhm.
that's something that I've defined, and I'm not the first one, but there's a big difference
Mhm.
between honesty and integrity.
Mhm.
Integrity's me. That's between me,
Mhm.
myself, and I.
Mhm. Mhm.
Honesty is as I love Warren Buffett says,
Mhm.
the most expensive gift you'll ever give anyone. Don't hang out with anyone that's cheap. I just love how he says that, because for me to be honest with her this last weekend and say, you know what, I'm coming from a place of fear. This is too good to be true. You know, I've had too many relationships fall
Yeah.
apart,
Yeah.
probably because of drinking and drugging and just simply being an asshole.
Yeah.
Um, but to be able to be honest with her and have an integrity myself in that moment, to have a woman come back 24 hours later and say, I was beyond impressed with that. Um, kind of going off on another subject, I've always said I'd rather have a woman tell me she feels safe than she loves me. because I think that's when a relationship truly takes off.
Is with safety. Is with safety.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I think men, we need that too, but
Yeah.
women, it's the safety and the security has to be there.
Yeah.
And for someone like me that, you want me to qualify, I thank God, I think the last restraining order is expiring. Let me preface, I've never hit a woman, but I will scare the absolute shit out of you if I don't get my way.
Yeah.
And to have 2 relationships end this last year and we still talk. I had to reach out to one today. It just, I needed to resolve something and to get an instant response. That's back to the honesty and integrity. That's, and I'll be the first one. I don't do a daily inventory. I suck at that shit. Absolutely suck at it. But I, like, we got to be honest. I'm not. I mean, I'm horrible about praying. But what I am good about is when a situation's occurring, checking myself before I completely destroy and wreck myself. Because I'm a train wreck. I will destroy whatever's in front of me, whoever's in front of me. But if I can have the integrity and give that person the greatest gift of honesty, and I can tell you what, this last year I practiced it a lot and it just seems to keep effing working out. Honesty sucks. We talked about in the last time we talked, the interview, and I was honest and I got a dream job out of it. And I thought these people were going to hate me, so honesty's tough. It truly is an expensive gift, but that's kind of been, my, regulation and inventory is trying to catch situations as they happen.
Yeah, it's beautiful that you're saying. I came across a poem recently, and you're reminding me of it, Eric. It's late in the day, and I'm going to see if I remember it. It's only 2 or 3 lines, but it's right what you're talking about. The poet says, "I honor those who try to rid themselves of any lying, who empty the self and have only clear being there." The idea that you just clear this out. And I don't know how this goes for you or why I remember the poem, and it's very much brought up for me as I listen to you, is that there's a lightness of being that goes with my being honest with others and with myself. That's really the pearl of great price. I highly value that, which isn't to say I can't lie to myself, isn't to say I can't lie to others, but I pay a price in that, and I've gotten sensitive to that in sobriety, is that when I lie, I feel a burden that I'm walking around with. It's like carrying a big old knapsack on your back or something. And I prefer that lightness. And I think this poet named it, who emptied the self and have only clear being there. Isn't it nice to look like, after you're talking about with the interaction with this female friend of yours, if you can clear the ledger and be honest with yourself and with her, there's no... I did so much lying in my life, particularly around addiction, but it precedes addiction for me. I was always paranoid about people finding out how fucked up I was. And so I would try to protect around that. And so you're always walking around kind of looking over your shoulder.
And
I do that less and less now. And I'm really grateful for that.
I absolutely love that point right there, because, I was able to, go to her and be honest and not lie and say, listen, I've had some relationships that haven't worked out. I don't want my heart broken, and to not, because if I would have lied and been that mean, evil person that alcoholic can be, that's when the guilt really sets in.
Totally.
That's when almost amends can't be made. This is an easy amends to make. Hey, I'm going to do my best not to do it again. But if I do, please help me stop.
That's so beautiful. That's so beautiful what you're saying.
I told her, all you have to say is, where are you going right now? Just ask me.
That's great. That's great.
We'll call her M. I said, M, just ask me where I'm going right now, because I'm probably going into a place of fear.
I've got a signal that my wife and I have just worked out after 10 years of relationship, because I get it going, and I'm a lot like you this way, Eric. I'm a passionate man, and once I get going, it's Katie bar the door. And so she's got this thing, and we've just started working on. I don't know if you can see it. She'll actually gently put her hand on my wrist like this, not like in a controlling way, just like a gentle physical reminder. Honest to goodness, if she says anything, I'm liable to bite her head off. That right there is just a gentle reminder. And we've actually got it going that when she does that, I burst into laughing because I feel like, A, I'm busted, and B, I can stop because she hasn't it hasn't aggravated me worse. So I think every couple has to work this out. I love what you're talking about. She just asked you, where are you going right now, Eric? Colleen just reaches over and just like that,
It's both. I mean, the gift of touch, and where are you going right now? It's such
I like that a lot.
It's non-threatening. It's non-argumentative. Where are you going?
I may have to steal that one from you, my friend, because I need a lot of help on this one. This is a big issue for me.
Yeah. Because I will, like I said, if I don't check myself, one of my favorite lines is, I will not wreck myself, I will total myself.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
That is the type of stuff that if it gets out of control, I'm at the corner liquor store or grocery store, and I'm not buying fists, I'm buying handles, and multiple of them.
I got you. When I ask the groups that I lead, and you and I have talked together in various settings, when I ask groups, I'll say, what's the most stressful thing in your life? You expect women to say relationships, but you wouldn't expect necessarily guys. And I guarantee you 80% of the time it's guys saying it's relationships. And so the thing we're talking about is prime material. I mean, if we don't work on this and don't get this worked out, then we're pretty much sunk in our recovery, right?
Yeah. And I even with my sponsees, I'm not one to say stay out of a relationship. I can see where it doesn't make sense, especially the first 6 months. But I come from the school of thought, coming from the medical world, is doctors tell patients double what they want. If they really want 6 months, you tell them a year. You want 90 days, you're going to get 45. But I think, we as humans, we're meant to be in relationships.
Yeah, I agree with you totally. I'm right with you.
We're meant to be connected. And with all due respect to anyone out there, yes, I'm speaking of male, female, but whatever your choice is, absolutely complete respect, to the LGBTQ community. Sorry if I didn't say that quite right. But we're meant to be connected with one another, through friends, through romantic relationships. And I get that. You get that. And especially with the meetings being taken away. It's those real intimate relationships, and it doesn't have to be, that's something that I also love talking about is intimacy. I have two intimate relationships with a male and a female best friend. It's never been sexual, never will be. But they're intimate. We talk about real things. And I think in early recovery, at least one of those intimate relationships is so important, especially with meetings, being gone. I'm not telling everyone to go, get online and go find yourself a date. You're not going for on a date anyways right now, but it's important. It's really important for your soul.
I really agree with you on this. And I know everybody's got to find their own way, and it's very individual, but I'm of the same cloth as you, my friend. The way that I've understood this in my career in psychology is that what gets most people into trouble, whether it's anxiety or depression or PTSD or addiction, is we're rooted in relationships. And so it stands to reason to me that whatever healing is going to happen is also going to have to happen in the context of relationships. We're not on an island. We don't develop these symptoms out of nowhere. It's typically in the context of early relationships all the way through adult relationships. And so my goal would be not to live on a desert island away from relationships, but what can we do, like what you're talking about, is find relationships where we can work through and repair the ruptures that happen. I can probably get sober on a desert island and do just fine, but that's not going to serve me very well in my day-to-day life. It doesn't make any sense to me. So I, for one, really prefer that we work on that in recovery, work on our relationships, because that's going to be the greatest resource for sure. And for many of us, it's also the greatest stressor. Until we can work it out, we're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. And, I to anyone listening, I hate to surprise you if you're a newcomer. This is absolutely nothing about substance. Absolutely. Getting sober has absolutely nothing to do with drugs or alcohol. It's
I'm so
just
glad to hear
simply
you say that. That is
it's
awesome.
it's simply your solution right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you don't fight, I'm so passionate about talking to the newcomer right
Yeah.
now. Don't fight
Yeah.
what I did for the last 5 years.
Mm,
Please just give it a freaking try. What do you
mm,
have to lose?
yeah.
Especially we'll put a needle up in our arms. We'll
Mhm,
we'll God knows how we'll try to get drugs and alcohol into our body, because let me tell you,
yeah.
I have tried every orifice.
Yeah. Yeah.
If that's not real alcoholism, I don't know what is.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
it's just our solution. We
Yeah. Yeah.
and the thing is the one thing I've
Mm,
noticed about myself and every other addict around me are two things.
mm,
They're highly intelligent
mm,
and they're highly emotional beings.
mm,
We're feelers,
mm.
and we just need to learn to feel in a different way.
I love you
Um,
saying that, Eric. I want to, and I think you and I have talked about this before. It was after I finished graduate school. It was right after I finished graduate school. So I missed school the day that this research started, but it's been really developed in the last 30, 35 years. And it's on highly sensitive people. And I think we've talked about this, but the woman who's done this research, Elaine Aron, has now decades of research to suggest that 20% of people on the planet, both genders, it's equally represented across genders, 20% of people on the planet, and it's across cultures. 20% are what she calls highly sensitive, and it shows up in terms of what you just said: emotional sensitivity, being tuned into, I'm looking out the window, nature, beauty, sadness, just living life. 20% score on these tests is highly sensitive. I'll tell you what, Eric, over the last 10 years, I've seen a few thousand people in my recovery treatment center groups. So I've got a fairly large sample, and I'll explain what we're just talking about sensitivity. And I'll say, you guys know yourselves. How many of you relate to what I'm talking about? Eric, it's 80% of people, men and women, raise their hands. In fact, I work so much more with men, it's primarily men that I'm getting, so you wouldn't expect that either. And so, though I've not seen the research, and you wouldn't count what I'm doing as medically valid research, because it needs a few containers for it to be that, I guarantee you that I don't think it's an accident that what you're saying is true, is that I'm ending up with, if 80% of people I see in my groups are there for recovery from severe addiction, and only 20% of the population out there normally is highly sensitive, well, you can do the math on that one. That's a
basic
big,
math.
yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. I'm right with
Yeah.
you on that one. I'm glad that you named that. What was the first one? Oh, intelligent. Yeah. Yeah. What do you make of that? I don't disagree with you. I'm talking to a very intelligent man asking that question. What is it
I've
about
always said
intelligence?
on my Tuesday night meeting,
Yeah.
this is a great example of
Mm,
how smart addicts are and alcoholics. We About 100 of us on a Zoom call last night, a
that's
meeting here,
wonderful.
a men's
That's
meeting that
awesome.
happens in Southern California, Newport Beach,
Yeah.
and there was a gentleman from Georgia,
Mm.
uh, and during the meeting took out a clip and a gun, and
Wow. Wow. Oof.
without one chat, without one text, there was already a sub chat going on our phones
Yeah.
with a first name and a last initial,
Yeah.
and a state and an approximate city.
Yes.
We had a home address, a
Oh
phone
man.
number. We knew
Yeah.
the wife's name.
Yeah.
We had the sheriff's department on. I am the one that called the sheriff's department,
That's amazing,
and
man. Uh,
under 5 minutes.
uh, it's
I'm
bringing
sorry
tears to my eyes. It's bringing tears to my eyes, Eric.
if that's not intelligence, I
Yeah.
don't know what the hell is, because we're so not honest. We're not honest in our addictions, which makes us the most conniving, manipulating,
Yeah.
just full of, I love the word fuckery, because we will do anything to pull off the
Yeah.
substance.
Yeah. Yeah.
God forbid we use all that energy to pull off the solution.
Right.
Um,
Right. You think about turning all
you
that
know,
amperage in a
but
positive direction,
just
like last night. That's amazing.
it
That's an amazing
it
story.
takes
Wow. Wow.
it takes such an amazing amount of
Mm.
intelligence to
Yeah.
be an alcoholic or an
Yeah.
addict.
Yeah. Yeah.
I
Yeah.
see these guys on the street, and I will always go up. I've got this one guy behind 7-Eleven. I always point out to
Mm.
the window because the
Mhm.
7-Eleven's right over there. This guy is beyond intelligent,
Mm.
beyond.
Mm.
I mean, was working on a master's degree before, Heroin's put them on the streets. I've always said I would love to administer an IQ test one Tuesday night at our men's meeting. I would bet my last dollar you've got at least 30 to 40% of those that would score very, very high. I believe 160, 180. I think what is it? 180 is genius now.
It's so funny.
I think you've got guys that are in that percentile. And women. I'm
I'm right with you. It certainly doesn't fit the stereotypical view of an alcoholic or addict, does it? Isn't it interesting what you're saying? I don't disagree with you. It matches my experience too. I'm working with the best and the brightest when I'm in the rooms working with people in treatment. I mean, honestly, and there's exceptions. I don't want to blow smoke, but I'm amazed by what kind of resource, what kind of horsepower there is in a room. It's unbelievable to me. It really is.
Dude, and look at what these guys go on to do. I mean, 2 years ago, I was in rehab. Here's a guy that was coming off the streets shooting needles. He just got accepted to psychology. He's going to be a psychologist.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
There's one kid. There was one kid. I mean, you know what? He wouldn't be mad if I mentioned his name, Byron.
Yeah, right.
I thought this kid's got more sobriety than I do. I thought this young man was beyond hope. He's in school to be a structural engineer.
That's awesome.
A structural engineer. I mean, the level of intelligence when you get sober, I wish we could look at the numbers of what people's careers are at year 1, 5, and 10. Yeah. I would say over 50% probably go on to master's degrees. I personally have known 2 guys just in the last 5 years that went on to medical school. And tons of attorneys. I know one attorney personally in this program who flat out was living on Skid Row and will tell you she was a crack whore. And that woman has her own firm today. And if you live in Southern California, you probably actually see her commercials on TV. And it's just, that's intelligence.
That's great. You know what? I love what you're doing, Eric. We're going to wind down here in just a minute. There's so much negative stigma towards addiction, and it's rightful. Addiction is the devil as far as I'm concerned. But what gets missed is that people get labeled not only in addiction, but in recovery as being losers. And we're talking about winners. We're talking about people that survive this and build lives of integrity, of contribution, and so on. And I could listen to you all day long about this. And I feel like it's a message that I want to get out there. Can we drop the judgment? Can we drop the stigma and get on with the healing? Because there's a lot of resource out there that wants to be out there making a difference in the world. And you're naming it right now. I'm looking at it because you're going to do this, Eric. You're going to do this in your own. You're already doing it, but you're moving back into the professional world. And I can't wait I'm going to have you back on here again every step of the way, my friend. Okay. Because I want to support you, A, and B, I want to track what you're doing. Our topic tonight is tracking our recovery. And that's what we're talking about, is tracking our recovery. I love what you said. It's not just about stopping drinking or stopping drugging. In fact, that's actually secondary. What it's about is about getting our lives back on track again. And that's a full body, mind, spirit job. And along the way, we stop drinking. We stop drugging. But what we want, I ask people sometimes, Eric, and maybe I've asked you this before. I'll say, why recover? Why bother with this shit? Give me one good reason. And what it does is it drops the conversation into, I want to recover why I'm on this planet, why I'm here. I've lost that and I want that back. I've been corrected. One guy corrected me, says, Bob, it's not recovering, it's discovering. We should call it discovery. I want to discover why I'm here because I don't want to go through this short life of mine and not contribute one damn thing. You had your hand raised, so you get the final comment. My friend.
Literally, you just brought tears to my eyes.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
I have one mission in this and one mission only. And I've shared this before. I've lost my grandfather, my dad, and my brother to this disease. None of them made it to age 40. I'm 43. I have an 11-year-old little boy that I've only seen a few times in the last 5 years as I'm fighting for custody. And, there's a poem that's gone around for many years that addiction without a doubt runs in my family, but it's absolutely going to run out with me. That little boy's going to have a different legacy. He's not going to know suicide. He's never, thank God, he's never seen me drunk or high. By the absolute grace of God and the grace of this program, he will never see that. That he will have an emotionally intelligent, sober father. Once again, it's the emotional intelligence. It's the emotional sobriety, not the substances just won't be there. And the chances, if I can nip that in the bud just by those statistics and me being an addict, I'm 90th percentile for suicide. I should be dead.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
If I can change that for him,
Yeah.
that's what this is all about. Because guess what?
That's
Then
it.
there is no stigma.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
There is no stigma
Mm.
because us addicts are finally going to put our foot down and say, you know what? We're changing it for the next generation. And I'm not going to say addiction's ever going to go away. My son could be an addict, but you know what? At least dad knows where the solution is.
Yeah, this is pure gold, my friend. I hope you'll come back again soon, Eric. I love you dearly.
Always.
Really appreciate your wisdom. Blessings to you, brother. You be well.
Thank
Take good
you.
care. Thanks so much, Eric.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Good night.
Thank you.
Good night,
Good
everybody.
night.
Bye-bye.